Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Inevitable podcast. Today, we have the honor of having Rafael Sanches, the CEO and founder of Anycart, as our guest. I've known Rafael for about 6 or 7 years. We've met when he was still running his previous company called All the Cooks, which, by the way, he bootstrapped and sold and transformed it into the #1 recipe app in the world. And reconnected as he was trying to raise money. Rafael is a relentless, inevitable founder, phenomenal contrarian, a brilliant, inspiring product genius. I certainly put him in that category, and that's very rare for me to use that type of word. We had a wonderful conversation. It lasted over almost 3 hours, and we frankly just stopped because at some point we got to stop. But Rafael has a very inspiring, beautiful story, and I hope you guys enjoy the incredible conversation that we've had for this episode. So first and foremost, thank you for being here. It's a big honor and pleasure to have you and spend a few, a couple of just spend time basically learning more about you and your life.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, I wanted to start by just asking you a little bit more about how you grew up, right? And in what part of Brazil you actually grew up. Because, Rafa, you are not the typical Silicon Valley Brazilian, if you may, very low profile at the same time. A beast of a founder and a brilliant product person, and I've been in the Bay Area for about 9 years now, and it's I think how long have you been in the Bay?
Since 2010.
So yeah, 11 years. So I think we see people coming and going, and all these folks that are just here for a little adventure, they think it's going to be easy.
You're going now. I'm already.
You have to come visit Miami, and also, Atman will continue to have an office here and a presence here. So it's not like that's why, aside from COVID, that's why I didn't also host a goodbye party.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm not leaving. Although I will be based on the East Coast. It will be better for the fact that we invest in the US and LATAM. But
that makes sense.
I wanted to ask, before we get into the Bay Area, before we get into Anycart and all that stuff, is just learning more about how was your childhood. And you're from the city of Maringá. What would be the equivalent of Maringá if you are an American listening to this? Because it's not even an Austin, right? Like I would say that Curitiba would be Austin. So like, what would be Maringá if you had to compare with Brazil? And
yeah. So I was actually born in Loanda, which is 20,000 inhabitants maybe at the time that I was born, and then later I moved to Maringá. Maringá is more. At the time I moved there was 300,000 inhabitants, so it's like it's a great city. And Loanda was very interesting, like growing up. I grew up there till 7, and I could just bike everywhere. There was nothing, and completely free. And then growing up in Maringá, after 7 to then I've done college in Maringá. It was very interesting. I was always a bad student. Like I always needed like extra. My mom always put me into, what do you say? Like, how do you say?
Force.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was always,
extra push is a little.
Yeah, always had extra after the school, like because I was doing bad at school, I had to do that all the time, and it was funny.
Why do you think you were not a good student when growing up? And I asked this because I was a very polarizing student myself, so I would only be good at the things that would interest me, and the subjects that I was not interested, I would almost refuse to learn them. So my mom wasn't that happy about that either.
It's weird. I think I probably didn't care, and that's the problem is that I really cared because I didn't want to go to the extra school things. I was like always mad. I was like, oh man, I'm doing bad now. I have to go to this thing. So I really wanted to go. Well, it's cool. Like I take good grades, but I couldn't. Like I just couldn't. I don't know. It was interesting, and but then like to get to college in Brazil, we have this test, right? The vestibular thing. And then at that point, I was like, okay, this is a serious one. I really need to sit down and study. And then I was able to get into computer science. And I think that's where I had a dream that it was gonna go great, and I had to, I was gonna have this amazing experience, and the college was really important, and all that.
Was it a literal dream, or it was an aspiration, basically? Just you.
It was an aspiration. I was like, okay, high school, everything else sucked so far. Then I'm gonna go to this university thing. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna have this career. It was great for the first month, a lot of party, a lot of things, but then like it was so bad. Like I was horrible. I was like the worst student in the first year. I hated it. There was a lot of math, a lot of calculus, a lot of things in computer science that was unrelated to the things that I liked. So then I basically gave up. I was like, okay, this is not for me, and I opened a business, which was in Brazil. Games was really hot at the time, and it was like video games, so playing in LAN house. So then I opened
it was the Counter-Strike days, right? Of course. We all do. Yeah, why get girls, right? Let's just pretend to kill each other with machine guns.
Yeah, and then I started a business, and then I had employees, and I had all these things, and then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? It sucks. I never, ever, ever want to have a business again. I was like, this is the worst thing, having to deal with people, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I need to finish college for real, and then get my diploma, and then get a good job, and never ever open a company again. That was my
seems like exactly what happened, huh?
Exactly. So then I was the worst student in college. Then I after this opening a company thing, I came back.
Well, wait. Before that, I think that there's a trivial not a non-trivial part of what you're talking about here, which is you again realized that you weren't really suited for academia, or maybe that like uncreative structural setup in which unfortunately most people learn today. By knowing you, and this is more of a suspicion that I think that I suffer from that as well, and I would consider myself a creative person as well. But quitting college and starting a business is a pretty big jump. Like just giving up college is already a big jump. How did you go from that to actually, hey, I actually want to start a business? And was it because you were already building things and you had this urge of just continuing to build? Like, what brought you to say, okay, out of all the things I can do in my life now, I'm going to start a game studio?
No, so that one was out of so I had already gave up, but then like there was a strike in Brazil for the college, so nobody was. So in that time,
this is crazy for the ones that don't know. Yeah, the public colleges in Brazil, they go on strike frequently, right?
Yep. And then there was like a 6-month strike, and then in that time I created a business, and I was running it. But by the time like this 6 months passed by, I was like, wow, it really sucks to run a business and have employees and do all these things. I really want to go back to college. So then this strike actually saved me, because it gave me time to try something new and then go back to it. And that was it was funny because I was the worst student in college before the strike, and then after the strike I was the best. I came back, I was like, oh, I really need a job. I really need security. I really need an easy job, whatever. I was really, that was my experience at least. And then,
that's great.
Yeah,
interesting.
And then it was funny because I came back to college. The first in Brazil is the whole year, so you do like by quarter. So in the first 2 quarters, I was the best student. I was like taking the highest grades. But then in Brazil, like if you take the highest grades 2 times, then you're almost like you don't need actually to work hard to the other one. So I was like highest grade, and then zero. and then I came back to normal. So I was like just lazy again to the
Well,
end.
you're just like a good software developer, right? Like the best developers I know are very lazy. For them, it's more just about like how can I get it done with the minimum amount of effort or work. So
No, man.
so according to the code there, you passed already. So that's actually an appropriate answer.
So
If you think
lazy.
about it.
Yeah, that's my early story.
That's great. That's great. And then I'd love you have something that I think that the most successful founder couple that I know are the founders of Cisco. And then basically, so you're married, right, to your co-founder as well. And you guys, you met in college. Like, how is it that you and Sylvia connected?
Yeah, so we actually met in high school. We were in high school together. Then we went to college.
Oh, nice! You guys are high school sweethearts. That's great.
No, we were not together.
Oh, okay.
So it was during college. So then, doing that, she went to UK after the first year. She wanted to have this 1 year abroad experience. So she went to UK for a year, and she had the exact same experience as me. It's like, wow, living by myself is so hard. Like having to work is hard. I want to go back to my mom's house and and then enjoy. So she came back and for the next 3 years we enjoyed together. After she came back, and we stayed together since. And but I think it's funny. Like both of us, we had the same experience. So like trying to go to the work, do something, and then like coming back is like, oh, realizing that the time in school was so precious for us because we were in our parents' hometown. So we were living with our parents, enjoying them with adult lifehood. So like full-time living with my parents was really fun. Going drink a beer with my dad, that was really the best time in our lives. And like having this extra 4 years together, like being older, was kind of very nice. I think it was good.
That's great. Yeah, I think that if you ask me, I am not very much in favor of college across the board unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer. But for the type of work that we do, for you as an entrepreneur, for me as a venture investor, you don't really have to go to college. And fortunately, there are many different you have to study a ton. Every day I read over an hour and a half daily, but you don't need that structural setup. Also, if you have the courage to not have to live by the fact that's like, oh yeah, so I went to school in this place or that place, and I think we live a little bit of that here in the Bay Area for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, but using hiring, like when I'm hiring engineers, I know that like if somebody finished college is because there's a lot of engineers who give up of computer science, for example, and I think like I box the ones that were able to finish in the like, okay, this guy or girl can really finish something, right? Like till the end, like really start something that's hard and then like fully finish a project is hard. And I give credit to that. Like, I think like when I'm hiring somebody who have a computer science degree, for me is more like it's a plus. Like, oh, this person can finish something even if they don't like it.
Yes, no, that's great. I do think also that there'll be other ways of measuring that, right? Maybe if they left to start a certain project which they've reached to some sort of completion or closing chapter. But your point is perfect. I tend to agree. I think that the other aspect that I believe is extremely important about college is that I think it's really important to apply and get in, and then live the first 2 years. There's something extremely valuable about going and having a bunch of first-time experiences with tons of people on the same age at the same age group in a safe environment. Meaning you can fail miserably many times, and it's okay. And it's not just about work, but it's also about socializing and parties and organizing things and really having room to figure out who you are and what matters to you, and being okay if some of these things will change or not. So that aspect, unfortunately, has not been able to be reproduced by any of the new novel programs. You know, could they be coding schools, or the great work that the folks at On Deck do, or and so forth. Just the ability of going to parties, failing, being rejected, trying different things, sports. Just it's extremely important for the formation of the human character. So that is also something that I think it needs to be taken in consideration, aside from what you said, the ability to complete things.
And also what really saved me on a computer science level was my dad. He went and paid for, like, I think it was like at the time, like, I don't know how much it would be in converting to current US dollars. It would be like $100 course, like PHP, how to code PHP. At the time, how to code PHP 1 week course, and I was so pissed with him. I was like, "Oh, you just spent $100. That's so much money. Like I could, like don't do that. I can learn by myself." And then I was really telling him, like, I can learn this stuff by myself, but you never do. So like you could learn anything by yourself, but you don't actually stop for a week and sit in front of a teacher and really like try to learn. So that moment in my life really changed my life, because that's where I learned how to code. It was not in college, it was during college, but like my father paid for this 1 week thing. And then during the course, I created this, it was like at the time there was Fotolog. I don't know if you remember, it was popular in Brazil. I created a version of that for my town. Yeah. And then we started, it was hilarious. I didn't have any advisor ever, like during the entire of my career in Brazil and in Italy, like just like somebody to advise you with technical things. So we had so many users that I had to shut down sign up like for some days, fix some bugs, and then turn it on again, and then it would break again. I had to like constantly remove sign-ups on the site.
Imagine if you did that today.
Right? So it was so funny. We had so much traction. I didn't even understand like what it meant, and it was and I think that's the difference here in the Bay Area and US in general. Like if you're in a good school and there is like, if you have a product that has traction, like you have good people supporting you especially if you're in the Bay Area, right? Like imagine if you're in Stanford and you created a product that has traction. I think you have a whole network surrounding you. And I think that's the biggest difference where like good schools in the US have against like, for example, growing up in Brazil and doing all these things, right?
Exactly. And even Europe as well. I would say that for me, that's what brought me to America. I remember the first trips I would take in a business setup, and I would go to the schools and I would go to the meetings, and there was just a whole lot of positivity. It's as if people would, you would say something and people would trust you, and then all you have to do is just, prove them otherwise, or just prove them that what you said was true. Whereas, in Brazil, because there's just so much fraud combined with, all the colonialism, that people they need to know who they're talking to before they can trust you. So credibility without saying anything matters more than the unpretentiousness of a kid in a hoodie can then, eventually build something massive. So that changes completely. That spirit, Rafa, was precisely what brought me to this country. So I think you're touching on an important point. But instead of coming here, though, after you graduated, you went to Italy. So how was that, and why Italy?
Yes. So my wife's father, he's Italian, and he moved to Brazil early on in his life, and then so he still had a house in Italy, and he has family in Italy, and we had like my wife's brother and sister were in Italy already, And as a Brazilian, as you would imagine, like if you're anywhere in Brazil, I had this in my mind, like, okay, if I finish computer science, I have to go to São Paulo. That was like the obvious career move, to just go to São Paulo, find a job in São Paulo, and work like in where the things are happening. So it was so obvious for me, like I had to go to São Paulo. Then this opportunity came to go to Milan, which is in Italy. Like compared to São Paulo, is this little tiny farm, and then like so small compared to São Paulo that I was like, okay, I would rather not go to São Paulo and go to Milan. It looked like at the same level, and we moved to Milan because it was convenient, and it was easier than moving to São Paulo, in my opinion. I think moving from anywhere in the world to São Paulo, it's such a different, like it's such a huge city. So yeah, we prefer to just go to Italy, and that was very cool. Like we had good times in Italy. We we had a lot of friends who were Brazilian in Italy, and some of them would be like complaining about the culture of Italian culture, because it's very it's
very closed in many ways. It's hard to make friends in Italy, right?
Yeah, it's actually let me try to explain. So Italians like to do things in their way, and it's the Italian way. And we easily realize that, like, either we are in Italy and we do the things in Italian way and hang out with Italians and do like things like they do, and you have to love it to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna have a sad life and be not have fun and do like be complaining about things that don't matter. So we really went deep into like doing things with Italian friends, and like really like going deep into the culture and embracing Italy. Like it was so much fun.
That's great. It reminds me of a book that I gift to most founders. From this guy named Michael Singer, called The Surrender Experience, which is just the importance of just surrendering in life. I think this is it's a beautiful example when you're basically like, look, if you try to push it or you resist how things are done in that part of the world, you're going to be miserable. But if you embrace the way things are, then you live a happy, fulfilling life with flow, right?
Yeah, and in Italy, it's a little cumbersome in the beginning, because like it's very different from Brazil. But they really know how to live life. It's a high quality life. Like I was playing tennis every day. I was like leaving work like at 6 p.m. playing tennis, having fun, like traveling everywhere. That was like really, really fun. And we stayed there for 5 years. So Sylvia, my wife, she's the one who wanted to come to US. And I was like, I was becoming Italian. I was like, why? Like, they eat burgers there. Like, why? I was very, I had this preconcept about America, about the Bay Area and everything. I was like, kind of, why would they go there? Like, I have such a great life here. Like, look at this food. This is amazing. Like, what I'm saying? Like, that's, I was in that mode. And I did it. I was like,
fantastic. I remember just one time I was near Bologna in Italy, and I went to a gas station to just, I was like, we were driving, I had to pee, and we stopped, and it's just incredible burrata and a focaccia sandwich with incredible prosciutto at the gas station. I mean, it's just, this, of course, that you have incredible restaurants and amazing gastronomical experience, but just to give you a sense, right? I remember that moment so vividly. I was like, wow, the Italians really know how to eat well.
Yeah, in my mind, I was like, look at this food. Like, they go in America, they eat burgers. Can you believe they eat burgers? And I didn't even understand what burgers were, but I was like, thinking like that, right? So, and that's what. But then, like in the end, she won, and then we came. And then that's where, we working with tech in Europe, and it was really fun because we imagine like two engineers, Sylvia and I, we're like two engineers working in the same company, in the same team, husband and wife. They would like send us for 3 months in Spain, and then it was good for the company because they'll pay for one hotel and one car, and then like and then we love to travel, so.
I'm just impressed that you guys have such beautiful partnership. It's just so rare, doing so many different chapters in life with the professional aspect as well. It's interesting. How do you think you guys make that work?
Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard. I don't know. But yeah, we have fun. And what happened in Italy is funny because as soon as I arrived, because of that, it's funny because of that. Remember that 1 week course about PHP in Brazil?
Yeah.
As soon as I arrived in Italy, I found a job like 1 day later with doing PHP programmer, and I found a job. Like I couldn't speak Italian, I couldn't speak English, I couldn't do like I arrived to the job interview. The guy was so nice. He was so kind. He was like, "Do you know Italian?" And I was like, and then he asked me in English, but his English was similar to mine, so we both were like, yeah, English, yeah. And then, you know how to code? Yeah, code. I code so much. And I was like, okay, hired. And it was hilarious because, and I was having so much fun with these guys. But when you meet somebody in a language, so they met me in English, and it's really hard to change the language they speak of somebody that you met in a certain language. Right, unless it's your mother language, like you and I, we could just go for Portuguese right now. But if it's not our mother language, if you met somebody in a language, it's really hard to switch. So I started. It was like my first day in Italy. I had a job. Then I started learning Italian, and I really wanted to speak in Italian with these guys. Right, so I would arrive to the office and say hi, ciao, and they would reply to me, hi.
Hi.
So it's. I think like for Americans it's harder to learn any other language because everybody wants to speak English, right? So I think that's one of the things, and everybody just wanted to speak in English with me in the company. So then Sylvia, she found this job where she was commuting for 2 hours and a half one way and 2 hours and a half. It was like a shitty life. The worst life she would arrive at home like at 11 p.m. after the commute, and then I would be home at 6. So, and then I decided to switch jobs to go to work in the same company as she was because, and then in the job interview, they asked me, hey, do you speak English? Nope. Do you speak Italian? Nope. And then the guy's like,
PHP.
Yeah. And then it was worse because they were hiring for Java, and they're like, "Do you know Java?" Nope. And then,
but, how did you get the job?
Yeah, so Sylvia's brother was working in the company for like 3 years already, and they're like, "Oh," and then they're like, the guy like years later he tells me like this guy didn't know anything. He doesn't know like how to speak. He doesn't know how to code. And then he went to his boss and he's like, well, but if there's any chance he's as good as Luciano, then I'm gonna hire him.
So it was more of like a family, like a heritage of like these programmers. Yeah. I see. Interesting.
The Brazilians.
I love it.
And then. But then they hired me, and then I started there. But it was funny because I refused to speak English from first day, so they had to teach me Italian. So after 30 days, I was doing like phone calls in Italian. I was like talking to everybody. It was great.
That's awesome. E che parlo italiano molto bene, no?
Un poco.
Okay. Yeah. I have a passport. I'm a citizen. I did like a year and a half of like Italian, and then I remember when I was at Sengrit, and we had this Italian customer that was sending a bunch of spam, and it didn't speak English, and then I was like, oh, maybe I speak some Italian, to realize that I didn't speak a thing, I mean, I could leave me alone at a bar, I'll get around, but like not to have a DNS, IP specific conversation with a spammer in Italian. That was not possible. But but then continuing on your journey to build things, I consider you that type of founder that, aside from being inevitable, that a very product centric founder that builds and ships quite a lot with tons of creativity. You have that extra level of like product sophistication that kind of resembles art in a way, and then basically you then started doing an app that was just doing custom notifications for Craigslist, or were you already in the US? Like, what was the jump there, basically? And when you came to the US, you guys came straight to California, right?
Yeah. So what happened was that in Italy, I had I could have lived my entire life in Italy, but I would have this. I don't know what it was, but at night I'll be like so pissed that I was not learning enough. I'll be like pissed with myself as like, wow, I'm not learning. I'm not doing like anything I always want to be constantly learning, especially like product and engineering. So I think that's something that I want, even on Anycart, to everybody who works with us, like to be constantly learning. And I think if we create that culture, that's the best. Like, doesn't matter. Like, I think that's really important. So then I was every night I'll be in Italy, I'll be frustrated. So like from 7 p.m. to like midnight, I'll be like trying to learn new things on my own. So I had this boss called Simona, and she was super nice of us. Like, imagine like the best boss you can ever have. And she knew like I love to learn, and she knew like that like learning is very important for me. So we moved to the US, and before Android was released, this company that the Italian company acquired, they were building like imagine like Google Play for Motorola, I think it was at the time.
I used to work for a company called Nimbus before the iPhone came out, and we were the #1 app on the Ovi store, the Nokia's app store. That's how old we are, bro.
Yeah. Anyway. So that was before Android was even released. Like we were like they got this really good teacher to do again 1 week boot camp, and my boss was like, okay, Rafa should do this boot camp too, right? And then she just did it because I was not in the project. She just knew that I love to learn. And then so it was my first week in America. In the first week in America, I started this boot camp that during the 1 week boot camp, I built this app, which was just to learn everything about Android. So Android, one of the things about Android that's really cool is the internal notification system that they have. Like you can spin up every like 5 seconds, open something and do run some code on Android, like in the background all the time. And that was really new. Like there was no like iOS. I don't even think iOS has that right now. So on Android you could do that like since the beginning, and that was really cool. So I was like, okay. What's a use case that I have every day? Because the first thing you do when you arrive in the US is that you learn about Craigslist. Craigslist is the best thing ever.
It's amazing, right? Like we don't have any of that because probably someone's going to kill you or you're going to get. I mean, it's getting better now, but still.
No, it's insane. Like the Craigslist experience for immigrants is it's incredible, man. Like that was the one that for me was like, wow, this is the best product ever, Craigslist, and
yeah, so simple, just text Times New Roman as the font, but it works really well. And then also, I remember in the beginning, I had no money at all, and I moved here, didn't know anyone, and I was shocked with the amount of things Americans would just throw out in the trash. They were like perfectly fine things. So my first entire kitchen, it was out of other people's trash. Like I moved to Colorado Boulder. It was basically a college town, and I was living in this neighborhood called The Hill. And I got there. I rented a horrible apartment. It was horrible to the point that when my mom came to visit me, she cried a little bit when she saw like the state of like the horrible studio I used to live. I was sad. I was like, well, didn't want to make you cry, Mom. But then I was when the semesters would change and you would see what people were throwing out perfectly good things. So my first apartment came mostly from the trash. Very, very glamorous, you know. It's
Yeah.
the anyway. So you're saying that your use case for Android as you were
Yeah.
building the application, it was regarding Craigslist and
Yeah, the biggest pattern in Craigslist that you find yourself like refreshing Craigslist all the time because you want a deal or you want an apartment or you want like something like that. So for me, it was such a big use case because my use case was I'm a good tennis player, but I'm not great. And at that time, like I didn't have money to buy like the Nadal tennis racket that was like $200. So in my mind, it's like, okay, I don't deserve paying $200 on a tennis racket, but if it was like 80, then I'll buy it for 80, right? Like so, but you can on Craigslist you can get all the kinds of deals, but you just need to wait. So I created this app that you can just say, oh, tennis racket Nadal for 80, notify me right away, otherwise you lose the deal. So then the app would just notify me, and I got the tennis racket, and I was like, oh, this could actually be useful for other people. Then I launched on the Google Play. I didn't even have a phone at the time. Was like Google had this insane. I felt like paying $500 for a phone was ridiculous at the time. I was like, why would I ever pay that much money for a phone ever? And I love my Nokia 6550 or something. I had that mentality. I didn't really care about iPhone. I didn't really care about anything. I was not gonna buy an Android phone. But then I launched this app and I started having a lot of users, and then but I was still like, I'm never gonna buy a phone that costs $500. But then Google sends me a free phone. Like that was like that was the thing that I was like, okay, now I love this phone. I love everything about phones. Yeah. And then at the time, it was so clear in my mind that the future would have to be, look, these are my interests. Notify me when these interests are met, exactly when I need it. Don't bother me like that. For me, that was future of search. So I'm searching for this. When my criteria is met, like tell me. I don't think there is any product like that yet, but I'll keep my eye on that. I still think that's big.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So you've it's almost as if Craigslist is basically an open protocol in a way within like that whole. I love that image that maybe we can put that after into post production, but just that image where you have Craigslist and all these like 10 different decacorns that are disrupting specific aspects of it. But there is a part of it as almost you can say that Craigslist is SMTP for life in a way. As a metaphor for like everything that moves around in your life, physical objects or things you got to do or buy or meet people and so forth. And the founder, he's a billionaire, and is a very low profile billionaire, and it's impressive that the product is still so great and so shitty at the same time. Right? Like if you think about it.
They launch an app these days, I think. They just launched an app finally this year or last year. But,
and their competitors that are all unicorns, OfferUp or ThreadUp and so forth, like they don't do that much different. Like it's not that different. Same goes for, I guess, aspects of Facebook Marketplace and so forth. It's just oftentimes the best ideas, I think the best startup ideas are extremely simple for recurring needs that any human has. I think similar to what you have in everyone has to eat. So I guess there's that. But then I think that it's interesting. So you guys were here. You moved here. You were working on all these side apps. It's this whole adaptation towards living in California. Were you always living in the peninsula, or did you actually live in San Francisco for a little bit?
Yeah, so we lived everywhere. We lived in. So I built this app. Then I started working for this Italian company for a year. But the app was like booming. Like we had so many users and so on. And then and then I decided to join a friend who had a startup doing news and things like that, and didn't work. But then so basically Silvia continued working with the Italian company, So we had like something stable while I was just like experimenting, taking California in, and we moved to San Francisco. So we were in Los Gatos in the first year. We were living in Campbell, working in Los Gatos. Then we decided to move to SF where everything was happening. So we moved to SF.
What year was this in SF?
2011.
Yeah. Oh, that's right when I moved as well, and it was so crazy, right? Like it was a completely different city. It was clean, and we had just so much was working, and people wanted to collaborate. It was so different than I think what has happened now. And it was a great mayor that did all the tax incentives and so forth. Yes.
I don't know. I love SF. I continue. I'm such a positive. I just, yeah. So I just love SF. If I could live in SF again, I would. I think it's a great place. I mean, So what happens? Like we moved to Tahoe. Then at some point.
Tahoe. You legit.
But then we came back to SF. So basically, it was like, oh, this is so boring in Tahoe. And then I just feel like SF is like one of those places that you always want to come back to it after having other experiences. Even like, so I don't know. I feel like it's a place where things are happening. Maybe, yeah. I'm in Mountain View now with kids and things, but I feel like in a couple of years we might come back to the city, or I don't know. I just like SF a lot. It's good memories, and it's funny because we always liked Soma, and we were like the Soma. We always lived in Soma, and yeah. Anyway, so we first year working with the Italian company. Then we started Sylvia continued working with them, and then I was experimenting with a lot of things. In between that, like I launched this recipe app, which was we had a bunch of ideas of things that could pick up traction in apps, because like there were not many apps at the time that could do big things, right? I just realized, like, by doing the Craigslist app, that I wanted to build something that positively impacts millions of people every day. And then once I had that realization, I was like, oh, that's what drives me. That's what I was born to do. Like, that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me wake up every day happy. That's what like makes me keep thinking at night. Like, that's what drives me. Once I realized during that year that like that's exactly what I want to do with my life. Then I was like, okay, I created a list of everything that will positively impact people, help people, and then I'll build an app for that. I ordered them by number of people who would use that app, right? So, and then the most hilarious part is that the number one app would be a recipe app, because it was like people eat every day. Recipe apps are free. Like, people can just download them like without paying, and then I can reach more people with a recipe app than I can with a Craigslist app. So then I made the list, and the recipe app was number one, and then that was on a Saturday. Then on Sunday, I released a fake recipe app on the Google Play, just like it had like 3 recipes, and copy and pasted them like and put it in. And
24 hours, you were basically. I love the practicality of how you live your life. Just in terms of, it's true. I think it's one of the combinations that makes you such a special founder is that this insane curiosity, and you know how to learn. You learn very fast, but you also get it done. You execute. You just don't stay in the idea world. I think that's fascinating that you just you ranked out the ideas. It's basically there is this moment on the whole like Joseph Campbell thing was just like you're at the belly of the whale, basically, like you cross a point of no return, knowing that you want to impact millions of people, but then you're about to face a bunch of obstacles. So I guess we'll get there.
The biggest one is the realization. Like, I think when you, as an immigrant, you arrive to the Bay Area, even if you're American, like coming from anywhere else, you arrive in the Bay Area, you start meeting people, right? You meet these people like oh, this guy is ex-founder of X, he massive exit, very successful. And then you start meeting all these successful people, and like, if you're an engineer, like the only thing that you need to know is like pattern recognition, like, right? Like engineers are really good in pattern matching things. And then I was like, okay, what does this guy has to do with this guy, with this other guy, with this other guy, with this other guy? And it's always the same pattern, which is like, do something for 7 years, like, and just keep at it, like do something that's big enough, that's like, it's going to stay true for at least 7 years. During these 7 years, there's always going to be a breakthrough of technology that will allow you to grow, right, your company. So like for example, if you're doing and then I created a list of things that I didn't need to do marketing to succeed. I didn't need to do anything. So I think my pattern is like, I don't want to work on things that can be blocked. So like I put things on the list that are only things that I don't need anybody to succeed. So I can out-engineer anybody. And that was my mindset. Look, I'm just going to work on something for 7 years. That's going to be like, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to out-engineer everybody, or my product is going to be so much better than everybody else. And I'm going to do this for 7 years. It's going to be a recipe app. I know that people have recipe apps on the internet before, on the web. That's pretty big. I'm going to do that on mobile. That was like, it was such a easy pattern for me to keep at it for 7 years. We got super lucky that in 1 year we generated enough value that we sold the company to the largest recipe website. But like, in the end, like, I was going to do it for 7 years because I saw it, right?
That's great.
So,
I love the 7-year mark, and I think it's just it correlates also with how I think in terms of making investments. And this is something that my former manager at the firm, the first VC job I had at FCVC, a Funders Club, I remember bringing, I was a very hungry associate, and I would, like how you're saying, so I'll try to like out-engineer. My goal was to out-hustle anyone that I was competing against with. I was like, I can take more meetings than other people, no problem, and meet more founders. And sometimes I get very excited because the problem with junior investors is that oftentimes the incentives are incorrect. You just want to get deals through so you grow and become a partner. And I only learned that after I started, a few venture firms, basically like with ONVC and now with Atman. But I remember him saying, these are perfectly fine businesses and they're being run by incredible people. But we have to underwrite our exits at a minimum. At that time, it was $1 billion. Today, I would say the minimum is $10 billion, just because of the size of the market and how big the funds are, and the fact that that type of exit is very possible, right? There have been many examples. But he said, we need to think about who's going to buy this company in 7 to 10 years from now. And when they are underwriting their case, they need to at least see 3 times their money. So how is it that this can become very large in a decade or 7 years from now, and then still be a story that is going to be at a minimum of 3x for whoever buys it? That really impacted my my framework of thinking. There's even a particular investment that I led when I was at one VC called Covey, and we ended up making the investment, but they basically rent mobility vehicles, basically rent cars for Uber drivers, but they're traditionally a mobility company, and we were concerned about self-driving cars. What would happen at the time of the exit? But we saw that level 5 automation was still so far away that we were comfortable making the investment. But I love that you just have that as like the framework, so in terms of if I want to be successful in Silicon Valley, I need to work on something for a minimum of 7 years.
It's such a minimum because it takes 5 years to do anything good anyway. Like, for example, Anycart, right? Like we started on the back end of something like that we were working already for 3 years, and then it looks like we and then it just takes 5 years for you to build anything useful anyway. And then like these 2 last years are like capitalizing on something great. Like it just takes like, if you don't allow you like to build for 5 years and then like this 2 years of growth, it's just like it's hard. I think like and what I've done in 2011, I just aligned this passion of impacting positively millions of people with something that I could do without getting blocked, which is like, I can build a recipe site. Like, come on, that's like, if you're learning how to code, like literally recipe sites is the ultimate tutorial. How to build a website is always a recipe site. So I was like, okay, I can build a recipe site. I can do that for 7 years. And then if we keep succeeding and being #1 recipe app. So in that Sunday, I launched this app with 3 recipes. And then I saw that I could get more downloads from a recipe app than I could get for a Craigslist app. And we were the #1 Craigslist app on the store. So then like knowing that number, like that recipe apps are bigger than Craigslist apps, then where I was like, okay, this is big, because if we can get like more users to use recipes than Craigslist, then that was the data that I was like, okay, this is good enough for me. I'm passionate about food. I came from Italy. Like I can really go deep into this problem and create the best search engine for recipes. I can create all these things. I can, do all this better than other people. And then I think, yeah, I was really ready.
That's great. And then you mentioned also that back when you had your photo app and you're like, oh my God, the servers are fry. I'm going to shut off like signups, which
yeah,
it's you like that word insane. That's an insane way of solving that problem. But will you at some point start meeting with mentors or people that helped you out along the way with all the cooks, and how did Silicon Valley play a role in that part? And also, if you can answer that question in a way that I think it's helpful for other people, meaning probably you get a bunch of requests for people that want your time, but they don't really understand, like they don't tell you why or how you can actually be helpful. For me, at least, it happens almost daily. So just how to actually find a mentor who helped you, and how do you conquer that mutual respect? Because oftentimes a mentor is someone that's busier than you, and they got to be attracted to something that you're doing to then, offer you time and expertise, right?
That's such a great question. The reality for me is that I wasn't. So my first company, this recipe app company, was really brute forcing. Like I was literally like going to sleep every single day at 7 a.m. And then I would like put my alarm for 9:30 a.m. I would sleep with earplugs, with eye patch. I put the things on my nose so I could have this 2 hours and a half of sleep. And I was literally telling you, like, I'm gonna release new features in this app every single day. If I don't release a new feature today, I'm not gonna sleep until I release this feature. So I was literally doing that for a whole year, right? So it was such a brute force. So it was such a brute force. Like we were literally brute forcing everything. So I didn't do it in a smart way, like thinking about like advisors and mentors and all these things. I feel like I didn't use the network that the Bay Area. Obviously, like so many people helped us, and so many nice people really like. I think the Bay Area. The one thing about the Bay Area is that you don't actually need to engineer it. In my opinion, it comes for free. Because people were like, they were looking in my eyes like I had this like a massive, I was working so hard, they knew it. And they were like, I'm going to help this guy for like, I'm just going to do my best to help this guy without like, you just get this thing in the Bay Area for free, I think. I don't know,
Right.
like it's weird.
I think it's true. I think people recognize who is in this, well, that's the whole ethos behind this podcast about just, being an inevitable person. I think that, when, at least for me as an investor, you see it and you feel it when you have a conversation with people that are willing to make the sacrifices that you've made and that I've made as well. I've slept under my desk many times. I still, I wanted to also. You touched on an interesting point that just the whole view on work-life balance. I like to consider myself, when I push a little too hard, that I it's almost, there's that episode inside on the Simpsons that he says, "Oh, this is a problem for future Homer." Which, I feel sorry for that guy. He says that to himself, right? But I think that it's interesting because nothing amazing in this life is built without sacrifice, right? It's impossible, basically, and especially if you want to impact millions of people and raise millions of dollars and build a massive business. I don't know anyone that has done it without suffering. So when I see some of this work-life balance things, I'm also not pro hustle porn. I think that that's also kind of idiotic. I think that you made a conscious decision to live your life that way, and you then start reaping, right, the rewards for that today. And you're just in the beginning, very, very early still. But I'd love to learn, what's your view on hard work, perseverance, sacrifice on like sleep time with your family, fun as well?
I think for me it was I would at that time I would be miserable if I didn't do that. Like it was like it would be actually the opposite. Like some people would view doing those sacrifices as like painful, where like for me it would be painful to not have the opportunity to do that. Like I was like really, really happy, and I think I was learning a ton. I was like every day learning so much, and that was the happiest like time. Like when for me it was like if I'm learning something new and like doing something cool. Like it was hilarious because I would literally force myself to release new features on the app every single day, and then it's 7 a.m. Like you're like 7 a.m. I didn't sleep, and then I'm like, oh, finally. And I was like, I would push to deploy and go to sleep right away. Then I would wake up at 9:30, and then like I would crawl to my computer and I would see like crash reports on the app. Like that was like super high. so people would be like upgrading the app and they're like crashing like crazy and like everybody complaining. And then like I would like fix it and send it again. So it's I feel like I was not following, like I said, I think I was just brute forcing it. I was not following like any advice. I was just like doing it because I would not see myself doing it. I feel like for that advice of what you asked, to answer your question, I feel like if something feels abnormal to you and you're doing it and you're not liking it, it's probably worth like, don't extra work or, what I'm saying, like there's something, it could be more optimal maybe. I think there is some balance there, right? I think that it's good to have that conscious as well, like because if you're like pushing yourself to do something that you're not liking it, I wouldn't like. I feel like what I've done was like I aligned something that I can be completely unblocked. I don't need like to. I think the most important thing is like I didn't have any excuse. So I always like all the companies that and products that I work on, like even internally in Anycart today, like every new feature that we create, the way we design everything is like we can't have any excuse to not succeed. And if we don't succeed, it's our fault, right? So I feel like if you design your life in that way, like if you don't succeed is your fault, then I think like it removes a lot of the bad stuff, which is like the bad stuff is like, like it's, I can't do this product because I didn't fundraise, or I don't have money to do the product, or like I don't have the funds. If you blame like fundraising for not succeeding, what I'm saying? Like that's kind of it's hard.
I love it.
Does that make sense at all?
Absolutely. You said, I brute force my way into success, and if I don't succeed, it's my fault. I love it. Yeah. It's a really good summary, and I think that honestly, in my opinion, this is also the summarization of the American spirit, right? Which is that whole individualism, the sovereign individual, self-reliance aspect of like, look, we're gonna have a country that has basic rules where, for the most part, we're not gonna steal or kill each other, and and then through the quality of your work, you're gonna get this thing called money, and then through money, you can do a bunch of other things that you want to do. So I mean, that is certainly. If one day we summarize, when we get to 50 on 100 episodes of like the little snippets of what makes a founder inevitable, I can guarantee you that this is going to be included because it's 100% true. And I also think that it's not this what All the Cooks was not the first project that you started. You've had many projects before, even back when you were in college, but it was the first one where it actually went global and successful. So how was dealing with that? And you being in the Bay Area, did you decide to then raise money or sell the company, right? Because you and we met at that time. It's such a random thing, right? We met at a Microsoft Azure conference. I used to go to conferences for a living, but I know that you're not the type of developer that typically goes to conferences. So that's the other thing where I'm so grateful that we met at that.
I used to live 2 blocks from the Moscone Center in SF, so and get the tickets for free. So I would always go just to get some free T-shirts. No, but I feel like. Yeah, man. The one thing that, in my opinion, is could make you feel like you're like work. I think this work-life balance thing is really, it's an interesting question because for example, if I'm doing a company and the company to succeed, you need to fundraise, right? But I'm not a good fundraiser, and I'm not confident I'm going to be able to fundraise. Then it's like you started the wrong company, right? So really aligning from the beginning, on a project that you can succeed, and setting up yourself for success for the next 7 years, right? And for example, there were more things that had more traction than recipes. But for example, I could have done a chat app, right? But it's way more competitive at the time to do some recipes. There were no competition. I could do it for 7 years because I'm passionate about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be I would just quit. For example, at the same time I was running this app, I was doing ad mediation platform, and I had all the bells and whistles. So my background as an engineer is building ad mediation. So I had segmentation, I had real-time bidding, reverse bidding, I had reporting. I built all these features for ad mediation platform, and then I gave up. I was this is boring, something that is not impacting millions of people every day in positive ways. Maybe on ads is a negative way. So I gave up, where I think you need to be true to yourself. Is the project something that you can do for truly 7 years? Right, and if it is, and everything aligns, and you don't have any excuse to fail, I think that's where it doesn't feel excruciating to overwork or do all these things. It just feels natural for me. I think that's it's really cool.
It makes a lot of sense. There were many times where I spent Friday nights or weekends by myself at the office. I was happy. I wasn't suffering. I wanted to be there. And I think that's what's important, which ultimately is behind that inevitable spirit. Because I think that it goes, is that the quote I think that the U.S. Navy uses a lot, that everybody wants to go to heaven, but not everyone wants to die. And I think that it goes to say that of course many people they just want to be a successful founder and raise money from the best VCs and build a multi-billion-dollar business. Why wouldn't you, right? But you gotta want it, and you gotta want it to the degree that I think that you just don't see your existence on the earth plane but doing that. There's no plan B. Plan A is plan A, and there's no getting a job or just thinking about it. I'm gonna do it when I'm ready. That's why I think that the brute forcing solutions is such a simple and interesting framework. So you guys made it. It's amazing. You made it into the #1 recipe app in the world. Less competition. Very interesting. And then you didn't raise, you bootstrap it, right?
Yeah. So the whole story is like we launched this up, and in a year, so we were fully bootstrapped. We had 1 year in the bank from our savings, like like living in Italy, or I think our salary was 50K a year, accumulated over 5 years or more. So like we're like, okay, if we're very nimble, we can like really do it. And then our money fully ended. So it was, we had millions of people, millions of downloads in this app, and I was like, oh, I don't know about fundraising and all these things, and I should start interviewing for tech companies. So I interviewed for Facebook. I didn't pass. Then I interviewed for other tech companies. Then like it was like I knew that I could get a job. So then there was like zero. Like I once I knew that I could get a job, then for me it was like, okay, I'm going for this. Like I'm gonna go until my zero. Like I get to zero in the bank account, and I'm gonna really fully finish my.
Always bet the house on the recipe app. And then also, it's funny how I think Facebook really sucks at like recruiting and retaining founders, right? You have Brian, founder of WhatsApp, was also rejected by them. Then, he sells the company. Like they rejected you. And then anyone that they acquire, they can't retain. It's just an interesting side note on how Facebook sucks at like identifying and retaining high quality founders.
Oh man, I really wanted to pass because I didn't have any money, right? So like, imagine like I really, really wanted to pass. I was not like bullshitting. I was not like being, some people like, I know friends that are really good developers. When they get an offer, like they get an interview from Facebook, they do it because, but they say like, oh, I was not like prepared. I really like prepared and I studied. Like I tried to go and I really
you gave
failed.
your best.
I gave my best. Yeah, yes, for sure. So like, I just showed them my app at the time. Like I was like, look, this is my app. I'm interviewing for an Android position, right? Look at this crow, 60 FPS on an old Android phone. Look at this crow's performance on Android, and look at the Facebook one. Like I was like in the interview, right? Like, look, I think like we could do this at Facebook, and the guys are like, okay, yeah, your app is amazing, for sure. Like the feed is better and all that, but then I didn't pass. So like, yeah, it took them like 3 years to get the feed to scroll at 60 FPS. Like anyway, so
no, that's amazing too. I was rejected by Apple, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft in the beginning of my career before understanding that I was also an unemployable person. And yeah. I am so grateful that during that interview process, these people thought I was weird. And you know why? Because today I am a happy, weird guy. Because in the end, no, it's true. Normal people do not build unicorns, let alone decacorns. No one that's the CEO of an early stage company that's bound to be massively successful is normal. Because this is the opposite of what people would consider to be a domesticated, nice type of life. I have this whole theory about this, and I was so happy when I was deeply studying Sequoia, and I saw that one thing that Don Valentine, put into that entire firm is that we enjoy investing in people that are weird. And then and I think that it's good though, but it's a good weird, right? Because you have to have this suspending these beliefs, almost this irrational pursuits of success. And truly affirm to yourself that you're going to get there. Otherwise, you won't. And yeah.
There is a framework that I use is like, what's the minimal acceptable, like what's my backup, right? How can I cover my ass? Is it fast? Is it going to take me like 3 months to recover? Is it going to be like painful? Like, what I'm saying? Like, once I know what's the minimum bar, then for me it's like, okay, the minimum bar I'm gonna get a job at this company is not Facebook, Google, whatever, but it's like good enough, and I'm gonna be able to survive, and I'm gonna be whatever. Then I just throw myself into like I just go all in, and I think that's fine. I think a lot of people are like that. It's like, oh, what's the worst that can happen to me if I try this thing, right? And thinking about the worst it's liberating. It's very liberating.
Very liberating. I think Tim Ferriss has a great TEDx talk about this, where he talks about that the best way for you to actually succeed in life and be positive is to list all your fears, and then you think about all the worst case scenarios. And I discover stoicism through him, and it was certainly an important framework out of my life. And I think that when we literally list out what's the worst that could happen, then it becomes easy, right? Because you see that like we're in this blessed thing called life, and even if there's a pandemic or all the other things, there's light will always come in one way or the other. So but coming back, so then just like how great things that happen in your life, right? PHP course, being rejected by Facebook, all these other things. So you at one point said, all right, I'm going all in with all the cooks.
Yeah.
And how was that process? And basically, go ahead.
Just one thing to add to what you said is like when I was brute forcing and I just came out of the boat from abroad and I arrived in the US and I'm like really poor. I used this like what's the worst that can happen framework. But after like we sold the company for millions of dollars and we have options now, it changes completely. Like I feel like it changes because now the new framework is like, am I gonna regret taking this route or not? Right? It becomes the regret framework. Once you have a ton of options and more money, but then once you don't have the money, you don't have the options, then it becomes what's the worst that can happen? It's so different, I think. Emphasizing that's very different. Like if you're just starting from if you already like have a ton of money in the bank, right? I think that's the two frameworks, like they're very different.
Absolutely. And I think that there's also the value of like earning your right and your place in the arena. I also was not born with money, and I understand what's like to, having to do the math because you can't buy the Nadal racket, right? You gotta like find the discount, and you have to make all these like tiny sacrifices that frankly don't feel nice. But when you make money and you realize that it doesn't bring you any happiness, it's just kind of like it gives you these like temporary releases and it makes you easy. Makes life easier. They are certainly, capital is an important resource for leverage, but doesn't bring you inner peace, and it doesn't provide you a way for you to, I guess, let that energy, this desire to build flow correctly. So, you went through this entire phase. Was it public? I don't know if you can share, but basically, how was the process of selling the company? For how much did you guys sell it? And then, that certainly in many situations put you at the top of the Maslow pyramid, right? Technically, if you wanted to retire, you could, or you could just, go to Brazil and chill out, or, do something else. It changes the whole thing, right?
Yeah. So and then like we built this company or save it, like we just burn all the money that we had in the bank account, and then it was like, oh man, like now we need to fundraise. But it was like, we need to fundraise to be able to continue building the company. It was not like we need to fundraise to do the company, right? It was like, man, like we don't have options now. Like if I don't fundraise right now, we're gonna go. I have to find a tech job, and then the product. I'm not gonna be able to continue building this product. And then all of a sudden, it's like I find myself with this product. We have like tens of millions of downloads, millions of users using it every month, and it's very. I didn't even understand it was very good for fundraising to be in that position. We didn't take any check so far, So then, like we found, like we got term sheets.
I love it. It's just so hard. That is one of the hardest things to do, and it's so well appreciated. I mean, technically, if you have 30,000 users growing at 30% month over month for 4 months, and you came out of Y Combinator, like you get like a bunch of offers. So it's funny that that you were in that position.
And then we got like term sheets. We got accepted to YC. And then at the same time, there was this person who was very successful founder, the #1 recipe site. I wanted him to. I saw like him talking in 500 startups, I think, and then I cold email him and like it would be great to we're fundraising. I'd love to have you as an angel investor, and then he ends up like and then like he wanted to invest. He was going to invest. I put his name on the list. Like we had the list of all the angels, and then like he committed to invest, and then like he decided to offer to buy the company instead. And then I feel like, we could raise money from VC. We had a fair valuation. It was a very good valuation. We could go on to YC at the time. And I feel like selling the company was, and then like I'm still doing a company, so like it feels like maybe I should have continued and done it for the full 7 years. But for me, it was like I was brute forcing everything. I didn't know anything about Silicon Valley. I didn't know about like anything. I didn't have like, I didn't realize that I had everything that I needed, but at the time I didn't know, right? So it took me some time to mature. So we decided to sell the company, and I think it was good. So we sell the company, we have all this money in the bank, and then I was still like, oh man, like it's kind of boring. Like we moved to Tahoe, we have this like wonderful life in theory, but it was so boring. So we so we decided to we stayed with the company for 2 years. We helped them build the international platform. And then when we left the company, we moved to Tahoe like full time. And then after 3 months, I was so bored. I was like, okay, we need to go back to SF, start a company again. It was just like natural. So I think the most important lesson for me was that I learned in a very early, I was, I think, 29 or 30, that money didn't do anything for me. Like it wasn't like I wasn't doing it for money. We decided to go back to SF, just burn everything again. So we bootstrapped Anycart till like my current salary is 40K a year. So so we're still like kind of bootstrapping. So
But it's interesting though that you have to make a little bit of money to then realize that money will never. It's the whole. I think Naval puts it in a good way. It's like money will solve all of your money problems, but it's far from solving all of your problems.
Yeah.
And I have met a lot of people that have lived very miserable lives or almost insignificant existences as well, because of the fact that they were born rich. To a degree, they're not that useful for the world because they didn't have to go through that suffering of asking themselves the hard questions, right? You happen to be an early stage technology founder and a product person, but you had to go through all these struggles to fully realize that, yes, I want to be building consumer apps that will impact millions of people. And maybe the answer for that, might not have been software. Could have been, hey, I want to make the best cupcakes in the world, or I want to become a neurosurgeon. But I find that it's just really difficult to find the right answers in life without suffering. It's also something I always look for in founders that I want to partner with.
Yeah, that's a great point that you made. I think realizing that money doesn't do anything, basically, but it's amazing to because I had money now, like I could do whatever I wanted. And then I just went back to the drawing board. I was like, okay, just gonna do it again. Like I'm gonna start small, and then like we started with me and my co-founder, then like and Sylvia, and then we started, and then we're just us for like a whole year. The same thing again, and then like we hired very, very slowly, and we started again. I think the one thing that happened that was much easier is that we had people that believed in us early. So we started with a fundraise. We had a 500K check from the beginning. So like even and that's like it's much different, right? Like being able to have that. I think that really takes a lot of pressure. So just allowed us to like go full deep into things that matter and not, I think in the end, like if you're struggling for paying the rent, so with the recipe app, for example, right? We've done like deals with Nestle. We put like ads from We put so many ads. We try to monetize. We try to do all these things. There were like big distractions for the company, where like, because we were not struggling when we done the other thing, we were just like, okay, we're only gonna build features that compound in value. So if we need to build the thing, we're gonna work backwards from what users actually want. Even the users want this thing here, we're gonna build a V1 that's gonna be here, but it's in the direction to this big thing. And that's where I realized that like if you continue building value but in the right direction, like over time it's going to compound, the product is going to get better and better and better. I think the second company, I was way more patient, and I think the biggest reason to be patient is that I knew it was going to work over time at scale, compared to in the first company. I was like, oh, I need to pay the rent, I need to like monetize, I need to do all these things in the middle of the way, right? Because
that's the most important thing. I often tell people that, basically like, in order for you to start a business, it's figure out like how you're gonna be immortal, basically ramen noodle profitable forever on your personal life, and then you take all the risk. Then you bet the house, but you know that there is some sort of way. In many situations in my life, I believe I've had to pay a big price by not figuring out that problem before going out back in the arena, and it's interesting how, because it shifts your mentality completely. So maybe you start a small little thing for passive income. Maybe you sell something that gives you the runway for you to take risk, but having that, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you start putting it in others. Others could be customers and users and other employees and so forth.
For me, it was the first time was Sylvia had a job, and then she was paying the rent, she was doing everything, and she allowed me to go and do all these crazy things. And I think that's the one that I never ever like felt. And I think like for my parents, like I always knew like if anything bad happened, like I just go back to Brazil, like live with my parents. I will always be welcomed. That's like the worst that can happen is like, oh, I have to like go back to Brazil and I don't have any money or whatever, and that's fine. I would always accept that, like that's okay. I think, that's and I think, the way we built the new company it was very different. It was like much more mature. Like we learned, because we worked for 2 years trying with a budget, so we had 5 million to really grow all the cooks to become something much bigger over the period of time. Then we
that's
had to
after the acquisition, you say?
Yeah. So after the acquisition, we got all this money, and then we realized that money didn't do anything. Like it was not like helping on anything. So like, I mean, I had a salary. It was much better. Like it was much more comfortable. But like the money, like it wouldn't really help like scaling the product, getting more users, getting retention done, and doing all these things. So that's where I realized like to do the type of company that I was building, the money was not an excuse. Like having the investment or whatever, like it really mattered, like to build a better product than the competition, and keep like doing that and making sure that the customers are happy and customer first and all these things. So
that's great. And then you there was a point where you said, okay, I'm starting something new. It wasn't Anycart. It was still called a craft log, right? And how was that process of getting back into the arena and beginning the new chapter that you're living right now as the CEO of the company?
Yeah. So we left the recipe company and we went to Tahoe full time. So we had a kid, and I was like 3 months without doing anything. In these 3 months, I picked woodworking. So I was doing like woodworking.
How did that change your life as a founder and CEO, so driven, having a kid? How does that change you?
That was it's amazing. I think that having a kid is the best thing. The family first. I still think like my passion is like positively impacting millions of people every day, and I think like aligning the family, how it fits in this thing, and making sure that everybody's happy is part of the journey. I feel like for founders, like having a kid is one more problem you have, like is one more thing you have to do. Like some people say like, oh, how do you do like raising, like having kids and starting a company? Is like, dude, like
Put it on Asana. That's it.
yeah, that's literally what we do is like solve problems every day, right? And like a kid is one more thing we need to do, and like otherwise, like if it wasn't like, for example, if you can't handle the kid, then it's the same as like not being able to have a visa. Like to start a company in the US, you need a visa. You need to solve that. Like so many problems that you need to face that are really hard to solve. And so many unknowns that like a kid is one more thing in the end. I felt, at least I felt like that at the time. So yeah, we started.
No, I invested in this company called Maple from this great founder called Michael Perry, and basically it's a software to do project management for your family. It's in closed beta, so I'm happy to get you an invite. I think you would appreciate it because it's you kind of like imagine if you could put a bunch of Zapier automations to solve these problems for your kid in an integrated, holistic, nice way. Anyway, just as a it's just so interesting how you said it. It's just another problem, you know, like it's like.
Yeah. So yeah, that was one more thing I needed to align, and once we clicked, and you know, I feel like the early days of the startups are not that busy, man. Like you know, you're early, you're working late, you're working like these weird hours. The early days, like the first year was like, yeah, we worked hard, but it was like it's so much. It's less hard than like building. Many tech companies are very challenging, like mentally, like being meetings every day, talking to very smart people every day, and being challenging. You know, when you start a new company, it's like nobody's challenging you, nobody cares about your product, nobody cares at all actually. So like you're just like hanging out and like with your co-founder and like doing things, and I feel like people like overly emphasize how hard it is, but like it's not hard at all at the beginning. At least I feel like it's way less intense. The first year is like kind of you're just hanging out, like doing some stuff that you already like to do, like yeah. So with me it was like I was doing the back end and a little bit of the front end, and my co-founder was doing the front end, and we're just like splitting the work and getting some stuff done. It was that's it. That's the first year, right? And and it's not that stressful. I feel like if you have employees and you have like fundraising, you have a board, that's way more stressful than the first years. So you know, I was lucky that my first kid was born in the first year of the company, so I could learn like in progress in a more smooth way. I would imagine like if I would have a newborn, my first kid now, like in the middle of like a larger stage company, it'll be harder maybe.
Perfect. Yeah. No, that's I think that will sound relieving for a lot of people. But you know, I how did you get to the idea of Anycart, and what's basically the ultimate vision that you have for the business?
Yeah. So we started Craftlog to record. So I was doing all this woodworking in Tahoe, and I was like, man, I wish I could post like all this amazing work that I'm doing. I wish I could post or save it somewhere, like in a that I could just have a library of things. And I think Instagram at the time was the best tool to record, but it was ephemeral. So like you record on Instagram is low quality, so the resolution of the recording was really like capped. And I was like, I want full resolution of my work, saved and safely stored forever, and I want to be able to re-render this work and the resolution over time, and getting better and better, being like evergreen content. So there's types of content that are ephemeral, like Instagram. But if you're creating a woodworking project that you like work so hard and you're recording these step-by-step videos of how to build a table, you want to save in the highest quality as possible, and you want to make it searchable so more people can find your work when they're looking for inspiration. So that's what we created. It was I think later came in like Pinterest, but it was like kind of content creation first, like UGC Pinterest kind of, right? So imagine verticalized social network for woodworkers that could record step-by-step videos. So we started with woodworking, then later we added sewing, and then later we added home improvement, because those are the type of things that I was doing in Tahoe. So Sylvia was doing sewing, I was doing home improvement, woodworking, and then I think like 2 years later we decided to do recipes as well. So we were like, oh, you know what? Like recipes is still the biggest freaking thing in the planet. Like if you see, like a lot of Pinterest traffic is recipes. A lot of Google queries are recipes.
BuzzFeed, Tasty, and like all. I mean, now TikTok. It's I mean, as you know, you basically, I think you have a very weird business mentorship advice, hot women, and recipes. Those are the three main buckets of TikTok, and then a bunch of niche like little things. It's just, I think that it's because it's emotionally so satisfying to just see someone cook, and then we are all, as you know, the monkeys that we are. We see food, we want more and more and more of it. So that's why I think that people just enjoy, others cooking stuff. So, pardon the side note, but basically that's
yeah. So then we decided to allow people to record these step-by-step videos. That's the ones that you see on Anycart. Those are all created using a phone on a crane. And the whole setup costs like $70 to buy a tripod that clicks on your phone. And then we developed the software on the phone to make it very easy to record step-by-step videos of how-tos. So the pitch of Craftlog was we were going to create the largest library of step-by-step videos before anybody else, because we thought that video content should be the future of the internet and not just this stupid photo at the top with a ton of text. So imagine recipes, right? Watching most of the content, even today on Google, is like you search Google for a recipe. There's a big photo with an ad and then like a ton of text. We thought that step-by-step should be broken down in little videos, and that was like
none of the big chefs or cook influencers, even on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram Reels, there isn't an index library that's searchable, right, for them to then sell stuff. I think that represents a massive software opportunity because they produce nice content. I consume a bunch of them because I enjoy cooking and I like eating nice things. I also know that if I always pay for someone else to do it, it's going to be very expensive. But I would love to just learn, oh yeah, how is it that guy, does his rosemary salt, for instance.
Right.
And I can't search for these platforms are all closed. And I mean, the vision, I'll let you tell because, but I think that the fact that I can go on Anycart, search for what I want, and then eventually there could be channels, right, for all these influencers that produce great videos, and I can buy and make the salt for the guy that I follow or the brand that I like. It's such a powerful full stack solution for a daily habit of eating and cooking, which we've been doing since ever.
Yeah. So and that's when we were doing Craftlog. Then a friend of mine and later became co-founder of the company. He joined us as a late co-founder of the company. He was consulting for a German retailer, and they needed to show that they could price their catalog into they could price recipes from their catalog of this retailer. It's the massive retailer, I think they had 300,000 products on each store, and their stores were in every language because it's Europe, and it was such a challenging project, and we didn't sleep for. I didn't believe in this vision of pricing recipes. I thought it was like, oh, it's gonna be gimmicky, like it's not gonna be end to end, like they're gonna want to price. And I was like, okay, they're gonna pay. I was like, how much? And then I was like, because I thought the pricing of recipes would work when grocery delivery was good, and it was terrible. Like in 2000, when we started, it was like so bad. Like I think it was 3 years ago, or 2 years. I don't even remember. It was 2 years ago. So 2 years ago when we started, grocery delivery was so bad. I was like, this is a waste of my time. Why would I do anything related to pricing recipes of groceries? This is like, I don't believe in the project.
It has gotten so much better. The first VC firm I worked for, FCVC, we were seed investors in Instacart. I think we wrote their first check at like a $12 million, $14 million valuation. And they used to actually hire task rabbits and the taskers would get on Ubers. And the orders were probably with a bunch of mistakes and so forth. And I think that also the early days of Rappi, that became, another company that I was fortunate to have partnered with, that basically early days, and it's very broken, but it's still better than going to the fucking supermarket.
I don't know. So
the discovery part is worse. That's where I think you guys do a really great job at Anycart.
Yeah. My everyday job is like, how can we be better than the supermarket? And that's really hard. Like many people, like it's so inspiring to go to the supermarket. So how can we make it more inspiring, more automated for the boring things? That's kind of my daily life right now. Like I still believe it's really hard to beat the supermarket for many people. And it's funny because we started working on groceries when it was like less than 3% adoption. And that was the biggest freaking issue, was like, how can we make people shop online? Because nobody's shopping online. It's never going to work. So then I think that's in the company's DNA to find a better way than shopping the store. And think about it as in a product level. Like when you go to the store, you're walking to the fruits section, and then you're gonna grab your oranges because you're fixated in the oranges, but you look like, if your peripheral vision, you're like, okay, I can see like the pears are here, all the other fruits are all there. So you're already like making all these calculations, and you already know where everything is, and it's so inspiring. Where online is so bad, like people are throwing you ads everywhere, like it's not easy to navigate on the aisles. You have to click to go back to the aisle. So we are trying to do, anyway. So I don't think like going to the store is that bad for a ton of customers, to most of the customers actually. So, but the funny thing is like when this friend, he proposed to me to do this thing for this European retailer, I was like, no way, this is a waste of time. Like pricing recipes, this thing is never gonna work. And then he's like, oh, they're gonna pay. I was like, how much? So they paid for a burn of 6 months on a 2 months project. So I was like, okay, let's do it, because that's a technology that I want to experiment with. I was very curious. I was like, oh, is it worth for us to learn how to do these things? Pricing, using the retailer catalog, what can we do to make it better? So, and we did it, and it was very interesting. Like, I don't think, so we acquired this kind of a knowledge of how to price recipes from the internet, but I was still not like, this is interesting, but it's not like, we have this technology we built over, half of the team is in Brazil. I flew to Brazil. I was there with them the whole Christmas, and then we crank it out in a month. We built the first version of Anycart.
Where in Brazil is the rest of the team?
We have a lot of people in São Paulo, in Paraná. Now we have like everywhere, but like in the beginning it was, and everybody's remote. So then we crank it out, and it kind of it worked. Like we created this. It was a big success. We presented in the like kind of innovation labs, but then that was it. Like was everybody applauded. It was, oh great, like you guys did a great job. But then like the project kind of died. So that's where I realized like that's how retailers do it. Like they innovate, like they create these innovations that don't go anywhere. A lot of
It's terrible. I mean, I remember, I'm a very hands-on investor, and this came through how I ended up managing to start a VC firm without not being born rich or not making fuck you money with an exit, which, at 4 years ago, hard. And I think still is, but, harder at that time. And I recall, in one of the, Rappi is such an important company in my life, and it's the second investment I've made as an investor, and then, continue to invest after I left my job at FCVC. And one of the investments was attached towards like launching them in Brazil. So I flew to Brazil and launched them in Sao Paulo, and we hired the first 6 people, and we were constantly going to negotiate with Grupo Pão de Açúcar, which is one of the largest retailers, down there, similar to the Albertsons of the world in the U.S. And it was horrible. I mean, just the process of dealing with them. Their offices were all broken. The chairs were broken, and I learned later on that it was on purpose, because they wanted to strong arm you in order to get lower prices, because they're always negotiating with people that are selling things to them at bulk. They just have this very win-lose mentality. And when it comes to innovation, because of the fact that they just look at their top line revenue as the only metric that matters, they think that they know better, and that we are just little nerds that will kind of show them, their fluffy little things and whatever. And that 6 months of burn that they paid you, right? It was just like pocket change for them. So with all the respect, like, it was meaningful to you, and I know that the work you did was great. But the reality is that ultimately, like, there isn't enough emotional alignment of interest for someone to truly give a shit. That's why I think Jeff Bezos is so great. He built a company where he managed to hire 90,000 people that give a shit. Like, it's an interesting way of looking at things. But I recall just negotiating with them and all these things, and they've been trying to do it. Oh yeah, we've been doing delivery for a fucking decade, and it's like, oh yeah, and it's horrible, and no one uses it. So it's just interesting that there's just so much room for innovation and creativity, and I don't think that this is going to change, because it's just the nature of how humans are organized. You have way more parasites in any ecosystem than people that are producing good things,
Yeah, and it's hilarious that you mentioned Jeff Bezos and the way that he organized the companies for success. And one of the big things that I love about Amazon is their principles. When I read, Anycart went through the Amazon accelerator in Seattle, the Alexa accelerator. That's how we started Anycart. We started thinking through Techstars program. And one of the things about Amazon that I love is the principles. And when I read that, I was doing the program. I read the principles. I was like, wow, this is just common sense. Like, when I read the principles, I was just like, somebody just put this like things that if you're not doing this, I don't know how many things there are, like 12. If you're not doing any one of those, like you're like going really bad, like you're doing something bad basically. So that's against common sense. So then, like, what I'm saying, like it was so good when I read that. One of the things in the principles is invent and simplify, right? Invent and simplify is like, like if there are better things out there, like go and use them and start from that as the basis, and then like keep simplifying, getting better and better than where you started. But like, don't freaking like, if you're doing anything with a product, like don't start from here. Like, start from here and then like get better, right? Let's say if I need to do a chat product, I will copy Slack, like that's the basis, and then that's where you started like getting better and better and better, like on top of something that's really already high, right? And that's so obvious, like to me, that we copied the Amazon invent and simplify. Like, we basically use the Amazon principles as the Anycart principles, because that's so good. Why would we invent anything like worse than that, right? Like, we started from there, and now we're putting our own things on top. that we strongly believe. So it's pretty
It's
cool.
awesome. Well, there's that great book, Great Artists Steal, right? And I think that's it's true. I mean, there are certain things that we're always stealing from each other and getting inspirations, and you want to be creative and original, but if there are things that in the past that they continue to work, continue to do them. I think that's one aspect of what you're talking about. The second one is just kind of like, it reminds me of one of my I don't know the rules of American football to this date, but I've read many books on American football because I love the competitiveness of professional sports and how you can apply that to startup building. Yeah. So there's that book called The Score Takes Care of Itself from Bill Walsh, that famous 49ers coach. I think he coached like Joe Montana and so forth. That even has a venture fund today, Liquid 2, that co-invested with them many times, and it's good people. But he said that it starts by guiding how the receptionist is supposed to pick up the phone, because you want to do big things in life, you need to do the small things in life correctly first. It's impossible to get both of them done. That's one thing. And the other thing that I think applies to what you're talking about is the compounding aspects of performance. Right, that whole thing about being 1% better every day, that it get equals to like 37 times better a year. It's almost mathematically impossible to every day improve 1% in anything that you want to do in life. But it is true that small incremental improvements compound in a beautiful way, right? And I think for product development, that's the de facto way to operate.
Yeah, the way it's funny because if you read like a bunch of product articles on the internet, they always tell you to like, oh, don't start with a car, start with a skateboard, and then start with a little like motorcycle, and then like grow to a car. Like build products that are lovable, minimal lovable product. And that's definitely not how I build products. That's completely the opposite of what I do. Like I strongly believe in and I don't know if this is true, but there's this book. I only read the cover of the book, but I love it, and I used it as an example.
At least we can appreciate your honesty. It's like, I haven't read the book, but I think it's cool.
So what I think the book writes about is there's this book called Total Competition about the Formula One. How to get into the Formula One, you need a car first of all. Like just get a car done, right? Like just do the minimum. Like get the cheapest tires is fine. Like you need a full complete car to even start competing. Once you start competing, then you start observing the other cars. Oh, maybe we should pump the tires, and then like dude, like just pumping the tires itself might double your speed compared to the other people. Like you know what I'm saying? Like just by having a car in the competition makes you observe all these little they look like little details, but when you apply them to your car, then like you double your performance. So my intuition says that that's what the book is talking about. But I strongly believe in that. I apply this every day. Like I strongly believe like we need, every time we launch a new feature, a new product, like we need something that has the minimum things, and then we start tweaking like everything like crazy. So and I think the story there where I was so we've done this thing. We realized retailers are super slow, and then we were like we were blocked. So like for this company, like the DNA is like we can't get blocked by retailers. Like we need to do a product. We need to do something that we don't depend on retailers. And I think that's how we got started. Then we got the opportunity to join the Alexa Accelerator. You know, when you go to the Amazon headquarters, we stay there for 3 months. It's so inspiring. We were talking like with super smart people.
I have a question though, as someone in Silicon Valley that had actually been accepted at Y Combinator and saw important talks happening at 500 startups. Why did you do Techstars? Look, like I am a child of Techstars, right? Like I was the first business employee at their first IPO, SendGrid. So I love Techstars. I've lived in Boulder, but I wasn't in a position of a founder like making that decision. So I'd be curious to learn. Hey, I don't know if you applied to YC or you applied to 500, and what led you to go through the Amazon Accelerator powered by Techstars, and I know how massively important that program was to Anycart and you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't know Techstars at the time. Like, I feel like as a founder, going to YC was a dream. Was like, this is the biggest dream in my life. Was going to YC. When we got accepted, was like really, really hard decision to sell the company and not do the program. Like, that was like really hard. Like, using the regret framework, I would have done YC. Like, no, now that I have money in the bank, like, if I had money in the bank, I would have gone and done YC, and I would be super regretful of having the opportunity to do YC and not doing it just because of money. Like, right now, if I had the option, right? Obviously, like, that's the obvious answer is like, you have to go. I mean, it would be better to do it. So I didn't know about Techstars.
Even today, like, if, let's say when you start another company, like, you would contemplate it, because I find it interesting that specific aspect for founders. And I've invested in many YC companies. I love working with them, but I'm yet to understand the rationale behind so much dilution. If you understand already how to brute force success,
I don't care. I just think I don't care. It's a horrible
It's
answer.
fine. You can say that.
I mean, if you're a technical founder, and like, I'm an engineer, right? I code I'm full stack engineer. I've been following YC articles forever. I open news, Hacker News every day. Like, it's just like the same thing of the Amazon principles. When I see what they're talking about, it's just common sense, and then you resonate so much with what they're talking about. That is like, it's kind of doesn't matter like if it's a dilution or not. It's just an experience I want to have, and it feels like it sounds like a good experience. So I'll do it if I had the opportunity to. And when we applied to Techstars with Alexa, was we had this retailer. Amazon is obviously like a insane company. Like, that was I feel like figuring out an angle that like it could really help companies like Amazon to do something big in the meal space. That was really exciting. And, it was just obvious, like, I was so pleased with Techstars. I feel like the managing director, Aviel, that ran the Techstars program for Alexa, I talked to him like every week. I had a call with him yesterday. Like, we are always in touch. Like, that guy is insane. Like, he's an insane investor. He's an insane, friend, advisor. Like, he's like an insane mentor. The way they structured the program was amazing. Like, I had a blast. So my parents came from Brazil. We put the kids in 2 cars, and then we drove to Seattle and we stayed there for 3 months of the program. My parents were parents for full time, because Sylvia and I are working on Anycart, like on a startup. During Techstars, right? So we didn't have time for the kids, but my parents were here for the entire 3 months. Like, and it's hilarious because we told them, look, we bring the kids like at least 2 days to parks. We go with them like to museums every day. We go to, like, we created this fake. I mean, it's almost fake routine, and they applied. Like, they were amazing parents, better than us for these 3 months, and they were so exhausted after these 3 months that taking care full time of 2 kids, 2 little kids. One of our kids were 1 year and a half. The other one was 3. So they had their hands full. And but which allowed us to like fully dedicate ourselves to the program, to Techstars. We really embraced everything. Was an amazing experience. The one thing that I have to say about Amazon is that you meet a lot of people from tech companies in the Bay Area. What I love about the culture of Amazonians is that every single Amazonian that we met, they try to bring a very genuine human thing to whenever they're talking to you. They're like, Rafa, I get what you're saying. I'm gonna take my Amazon hat off and I'm gonna give my take. So they give you their, like, most of the Amazonians are like that I talked to. If it was like, this is my personal opinion. Like, I think you should go and do that. But like, that's what I think. It's like, what I'm saying? They were like always like the employees that we met. They were amazing in that way. Where like they were not like representing Amazon at all. Every conversation, right? They were actually like separating themselves from the corporate. They had this clear understanding of where Amazon stands and where they stand, and they were able to do the separation where it's very hard in the Bay Area, like with some companies here. So I don't know if you know
Absolutely.
what.
No, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think there's a certain type of what like the Google type or the Facebook type or the Twitter type, and I have this whole theory about the fact that like the middle manager of large tech companies was actually what destroyed the culture of San Francisco. But that's, I guess, for like another a whole nother conversation. It's always started the Google bus and people throwing rocks at them and how Google responded. But I think that. Bezos is such a brilliant manager towards ingraining that culture, which ultimately comes out of a place of it's a combination of courage and humility. Because I understand that they always they encourage the junior people to speak out first in meetings, so you can actually be always genuine and always speak your mind and know that you are at a safe environment with not a lot of judgment. There's a lot that we can all learn from how Amazon manages, right? But I wanted to touch on like a few as we're almost at 2 hours, and I love spending time with you because I feel like we could be chatting for hours and hours and hours, and it's always such a pleasant conversation. And but this was the first time where you've raised friends and family $500,000 round. The company had a different name, and then you went institutional. And I'd love to just learn more about basically how did that happen, and why did you raise money from the investors that you did, and how is it that that relationship evolved over time, and what is it like to be a founder that already had an exit that now raise money from institutionals?
Yeah, so I think it's we obviously went to Techstars because we wanted to fundraise. Techstars is a fundraising program. Like only go to Techstars if you want to fundraise. In my opinion, that was my mentality when we started. I went there to fundraise. I went there to figure out like product market fit, like figure out things, and then I feel like I should have done that earlier. If I have an advice, like going through a program like Techstars, YC, it's so valuable, like for any early founder, like, like all that brute forcing. At the same time, I have to say that there was a lot of learnings that Techstars was teaching that I was completely ignoring. Like I was like, that's bullshit. Like I'm never going to do that. Like we would never, ever gonna do that. So it was like, I think one person was really pushy of us to do personas at some point. He'll just get stuck in every conversation. It's like, you know what, Rafa, I really think you should define your personas. And then I would leave the meetings. I would tell the team, guys, we will never, ever, ever gonna have personas on Anycart ever. I think I was being opinionated and going through Techstars and being way more confident. I think really made me being able to really fully take what the program can offer. I think we really absorbed a lot.
That's a very important point, and it's why many investors don't prefer to back second-time founders. Right. Because I find that's like ultimately, like as a first-time founder, you don't know what you don't know, and you ultimately can be whiplashed out of basically a tons of advice. And then sometimes if you hear and you follow the wrong advice from someone that you respect, it can put your company in a pretty complex situation because, at every stage, like these enterprises, the businesses, they're such fragile entities. So, you kind of like, it's almost like every day you're at it's the World Cup final and you only have like 5 shots at goal. And then if you actually don't hit them, you lose the championship. And it's kind of like that every day. So, I much rather work with strong opinionated founders than that for the most part I can say, 70% of the time this person will be making good decisions versus people that
they can know,
or that they want my input, right? And that's also why, for instance, the name of the show is Inevitable, and my whole ethos is partnering with inevitable people. It took me years as an investor to understand that I want to invest in people that will be successful irrespective if I exist or not. My responsibility as a fiduciary and as an investor is to just help founders get to their destination faster by providing them with multiple choices of capital, people, public relations, and operations and finance help. That's it. And it takes a while for you to understand it, because I think we all want to be in this position of like, I love giving advice and I love helping. I'm like, no, I'll be helpful to you where I can. If I don't know, I'm not going to just follow someone else's framework. So that's great. I think that you independent thinking pays off way more in the future.
Yeah, and I think that was amazing, because like being very opinionated during the program and getting so much like great. So the amazing thing about this program is that the manager, like both from Amazon side and the Techstars side, they're like the rock stars, like the best people that I ever worked with. They're both like super good. The quality was so high, and then being in Seattle was so inspiring because it's different than the Bay Area. It's there's a lot of Amazon there, and people who work at Amazon are super clever. So like we'll get like a ton of smart feedback about the product, about what we're doing, and all that stuff. So it was very, very productive. So it's funny because we arrived there. I was just like, we're gonna create this product that prices Google, and then we're gonna go and match the Google against the product catalog of retailers, right? Then we made Google shoppable. So like if you search anything on Google, our Chrome extension will go and price, replace all Google with our, like make everything shoppable directly from Google, because that's where people get their recipes, right? So that was the obvious. I was like working backwards. That's our product. We're pricing any content that you're shopping while you're browsing the internet. We're like proposing you all these things for you, right? So that's the Anycart in a nutshell. And we built it. So we built like really quickly, and then I was like, I'm not gonna use this product, because if I price a lasagna from Google is made for ad clicks. So a lasagna from Google, if you had to actually buy all the ingredients to make a lasagna from Google, they put like 3 capers on top. So now you have to buy the whole caper thing. And capers are really expensive. So it's like $13 more just because it was beautiful in that photo, right? So recipes from Google don't work for shopping. And once I realized that, like, we realized that was a click, and my co-founder and I, every day we're like, oh man, I wouldn't use their product. This product is not going to work. It's a great product. It's like I think we're going to launch that product at some point. It works wonderfully, but it's not like a product that you can't. It's not like a day-to-day product that you're going to come back every day. We wanted to build like something that people come back every day and it'd be very sticky. So then we once we had that realization, we're like, oh, you know what? You know who has the best platform to create video content step by step in the planet? Like we have the best technology to allow anyone to create a video step by step. So Techstars had this Michelle, who was doing like I don't know what was her title in Techstars, but it was basically like a program, an internship program She was there helping Techstars, organizing the things. And then we got her and like, Michelle, can you help us create content using videos step by step for shopping? And then we're going to create this content from scratch. And then during the program, she was cooking the whole day and creating these videos that you see on Anycart right now. She works with us full time now. So we created a ton of content like that's made for shopping. And I think that's something that only happens on Anycart. And then we decided that we wanted to control the entire experience end to end. So when you land on Anycart, you only see things that are fully in stock, that you're not going to get any problem if you order from Anycart, and we're going to deliver to your home and tell you notifications and make sure that it's an end-to-end user experience. And I think that's, we decided to fundraise because we thought that for the same market that there is for groceries, for Uber Eats and all these companies, like a $750 billion category. We thought that the same category of eating at home, it's a $750 billion as well. So we thought, look, we're going to build a product that if you want to eat at home, you're going to use Anycart. And you're going to order through us. We're going to deliver to your home the groceries in 1 hour. And that's going to work. So that's kind of the product that we really deeply believe is going to work. And then I think Techstars helped in that process to really narrowing down and streamlining something that we deeply believe about.
That's great.
That's
great.
And during the program, to respond to your question, we started talking to VCs, and we flew. We were in Seattle. We flew to the Bay Area during the program, in the middle of it, because our managing director, he was just like, Rafa, just go to the Bay Area 1 week. Fundraise and I think you guys are ready. And then we went to the Bay Area, talked with 15 people. Some of the VCs were like, Rafa, you know what you need to build? I need to tell you what I have in my house. You tell me what I can cook. And I was like, dude, I built that company 5 years ago. It was called All the Cooks. That was exactly what we built. Let me tell you what you want. You don't want that. What you really want.
I love that. No, you actually said that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
You wonderful. Yes, yeah. I love it.
What it tells him
it's
is
very Steve Jobs of you in that sense. So, hey, the customer doesn't know shit. Let me explain to you what do you want, please.
Yeah. So what you really want as a customer, you want to open this up. You decide what's for dinner. We deliver to you in less than 1 hour. And when you finish cooking, there's zero leftover. So if we can build that for you, that's exactly what you want. You don't want to deal with leftovers. You don't want to deal with all the other crap. Anycart delivers the meals to you. There's zero leftovers. You're done. Arrives in 1 hour on demand, no subscription, right? That's the product that everybody wants. So yeah. So we came to the Bay Area. We found 2 investors. Who wanted to invest in the round. So we closed the round with Greycroft and Menlo Ventures, and I think that was a really great outcome. They're on our board now, so it's a great relationship.
Awesome, very good. Well, this is such an inspiring conversation. I always I think you have so much energy that every time I speak with you, I just feel so inspired to just, go out and get more things done. What do you think is going to be the future in terms of what you've learned during the pandemic and post-pandemic? Many people had to start learning how to cook. Right. I remember in the early days of the pandemic, you'd go to Target and a bunch of people buying pans and pots and so forth. So what do you think is going to be what's the vision for Anycart in the future in terms of what would you like to build if you had a shared whatever you can of the Anycart master plan?
No, I mean, for us, I don't think we really changed the product vision. Since 2011, what I want to do is to positively impact millions of people every day, and that's the mission of Anycart. we set that as the mission, and everybody like in the company is really excited about this mission. We are building the best tools in the planet for grocery shopping that help people to that positively impact millions of people every day, right? So that's super simple, but in the end, like I strongly believe we are the only ones today that's really focusing on the end user experience, in the sense that we really didn't change much because of the pandemic. We think that grocery shopping before the pandemic was a disaster, because like people would use grocery shopping like 4 times a year. Like, oh yeah, you have a birthday party and you're late, like you maybe use Instacart, pay the extra fees and you're fine. But like, I think Anycart is the only company in the planet that is fully focused in figuring out a way to make people shop online for groceries every 5 days. So if we have that story, like if we figure that out, what does that mean? We don't have the answer yet, but that's where we're fully focused to be the company who can bring you back to shop for groceries online every 5 days, right? Just meaning like people do this, like people already do this without online, right? We just think like if we can bring that online, the behavior, whatever it is, like it might be just like same prices as the store. Maybe like you don't want to pay the markups. Maybe you don't want to pay for delivery. We don't know the exact combination, convenience, but we know that's what we're focused on, and that's like we're moving very fast, like to do insane things. Like we figured your shopping, like you know that I'm gonna tell you the secret of Anycart. What we're actually building is like you know that all these grocery shopping sites, they feel like a portal. Do you remember in Brazil, like they had UOL or something? Like it's just a portal.
Oh, yeah. It still exists. It's do you remember? It's still there, but I know, I understand that it seems like a Paleozoic product.
You know that I don't know why, but all these grocery sites, they look like portals, where like grocery shopping, like you know they have the search at the top, but like search queries on grocery sites, they're just like you're building a shopping list. So why do you have to type the same things over and over and over every time? Like you know, like Anycart's collecting the data, and then we can predict what's your shopping list before you even know, depending on the day, the weather, and all these things.
Yeah.
So.
And not just that, but I think that like in the end, I find that like, you know, when you're talking about the joyful aspect of the experience, of the offline experience in a grocery store, is the discoverability. You
Right.
feel like you're in this mini adventure, you know, when you go to the cheese like aisle on Whole Foods, and you know there are like 50,000 different cheeses, and you're like, oh, I wonder what's, you know, goat cheese soft whatever with herbs, and what about this? And you kind of look at them and you're like, oh, I didn't know such a small piece of cheese could cost, you know, $17. I wonder if that's good. Maybe, right? Maybe I'll try it. Maybe I won't. And I find it's like all the online apps, and in my opinion, the native app that is just groceries alone, right? So not counting you guys, that has the best experience is Good Eggs, and it's because of the load times of the app and the quality of the pictures. But still, it's that whole aisle reproduction of you know, you're making me walk every
Right.
aisle digitally.
Yeah.
And that's fucking stupid. I am not on the supermarket, so stop making me walk and make the entire experience complementary and faster. Meaning, if I'm buying a porterhouse steak inside Good Eggs, do I need salt? Do I need pepper? Would I like to make it in such a way? And then in 2 clicks, boom, boom, I buy it all. It's all in my cart. So these tiny optimizations, I think, can like propel GMV for the retailers in a crazy way.
This example that you said is the same as like now Anycart. We just like launched the app, by the way. 1 week ago, we got approval from Apple. We'll have this insane architecture for, like the tech of our mobile app is insane. Anyway, so we just launched. So we have a car in the market. Like remember, right? And that example that you gave to me is the same as like our car has flattened tires. As soon as we put that, our car is going to go much faster, right? Because having those type of features on top of that,
Exactly.
insane. And our app is very simple. Like first tab, inspiration. We try to solve inspiration of the like aisles or recipes or things like that. Very like inspiration is the first tab. Second tab is like imagine Pedro goes on the app. I just want my milk, my bacon, my eggs, and I want to get this list very quickly. So the auto shopping list, we predict your shopping list and put it in the second tab, right? So unifying like being super fast at finishing the list with inspiration when you feel inspired. And you know that's it. Like that's very simple app, and then allowing you to copy and paste a shopping list directly on Anycart and shop it. That's nobody has this feature, right? And it's such a simple, marketable idea, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes the simple marketable ideas, when you just change one thing, can fundamentally, build multiple billions of in value. Bumble versus Tinder, it's a great example, right? It's just that the women, like, do the first move. That's it. Simple. So it's the same thing here. But I think if there's like one final thing for that would summarize this entire chat is that in order to build a successful business, you gotta brute force insane things, and then your life is gonna turn out okay, right?
Yeah,
I love it. Rafa, there just I usually like to end by just doing a few quick, like, just rapid fire questions. It's funny how we learn about different things about each other in that sense. So, the first thing is, like, if you had to really plan like your ideal morning routine, how would that look like?
Drink a lot of coffee, bring the kids to school, and then get to work. That's
Easy.
pretty good.
Wonderful. Have you started doing something new recently that significantly improved your life, or you bought something that significantly improved your life? Like, it could be a small thing or a big thing. For to give you an example, for me, I got this Bluetooth speaker for my shower. It's $15. Changed my showers forever.
We started using TeamFlow. Have you ever heard about this company? Like this, like, significantly, like, improved my life. It's so much. Like, this product is the salvation of my life, because as a tech CEO, like, if we had, like, right now we're in 35 people. If we had 35 people in an office space, I'll be walking the entire day. Hey, what's up? What's up? What are you doing? Is that cool? Can you demo it? Like, I'll be the entire day doing this, walking around the office, and checking in with people and doing one-on-ones. So TeamFlow allows me to do that online. So people are online all the time, at the same time. I don't need to do like I don't have a calendar. Like, I don't check my calendar anymore because I know people are gonna be in the office. Otherwise, I'd have to be scheduling Zoom meetings and all these things. So it really improved my life. Like, that's
huge.
the one. Yeah.
All right. What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear? I don't know. Yeah.
Fearless brute forcing, all the insanity. Yeah. I love it.
My biggest fear is probably not learning, I guess. Like, if I stop learning, and I think that's a pretty big fear. Obviously, like, aside from all the, like, now I have a family, and the only thing that I ask is for health and continue to be in health. But I think on the work side is definitely learning. Like, I think I'm definitely learning a ton, like, which is insane. And yeah.
That's great. Is there something that you usually believe that's true that others don't agree with you? That's the classic, like, Peter Thiel question. I just find that's such a good question.
So many things.
That's great. Maybe Founders Fund's leading your Series B, because I think that's the ethos behind that fund. I'm serious.
And the most funny thing is, we're doing deals with pretty big companies, right? Like, all these retailers, all these companies, like, and they tell me, Rafa, we're never ever gonna do that. And then I keep trying, until they do it. So, but usually, like if it's something for the customer, for that I know I'm right. Like this is what customers want, and this is like exactly. There's no questions. This is what customers want, and then I'm not gonna give up just because they don't want to do it. So like I think that I encounter that every day, like at work. So
wonderful. Last question: is there a company you wish you would have founded, and why?
That exists or that don't exist yet?
Both. I mean, it doesn't matter. No right or wrong answer in that one.
That don't exist. I really wish I like something that I'm passionate about. Like if we could just make video conferencing as not put a massive load on people's computer. Like just like making sure video conferencing is like doesn't take like less than 20% of your CPU. I think like that's it. Like very simple technical problem. Like I'll be very passionate to solve. If anybody listening to this is like has that company, I would invest right now. Like that's something that I would. I think is rendering in the server side using OpenGL to do multiplexing. Anyway, I'm very passionate about this stuff.
That's fine. I think that the founder Mixpanel is starting something like that, but for the browser, just because how Chrome is a necessary evil in our lives.
If it's native, maybe works, but if it's in the browser, it's not gonna. Oh, for browser, got it. Okay, yeah. Got it. So he's doing a new browser, right? Not a video conferencing thing.
I don't know. I know that he's working on something. I think Suhail Doshi. Might be butchering his name, but he's working on something like that called a Mighty App. Make Chrome faster, basically.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. But the video conferencing architecture that I have in mind is it's weird. It's not gonna. You need somebody crazy to do it. Basically, you should centralize all the traffic in this because now OpenGL like GPU servers are cheap to run on the cloud, so you could do all the cool stuff on the cloud. Anyway.
Great. And then one that has been started then?
One that has been started. I don't know. Interesting. I don't know. That's a good question.
That's fine. I think it's better to give the answer. Usually people would think about something that, I think this just goes to show again how creative you are, because oftentimes that other question, something you believe that it's true that other people don't know, they don't have an answer. And you said, "Oh my God, where do I start?" And then again, it just goes to show how creative you are. I think that's wonderful. But look, like this has been one of the longest ones, and I feel like we could continue to go and go and go. And Rafa, I can't say how much I appreciate your time and how much I enjoy spending time with you and admire you as a person. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today at the Inevitable Podcast. And I wish you the best on your quest with Anycart.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity and to share my story, and the work that you're doing is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is the end of our first episode. I think we've had so many interesting gems for founders or anyone that's looking to start a company here in this conversation. Hopefully they were as productive to you as they were to me. Make sure to subscribe to us, inevitablepodcast.com. All the links are also on my website, pedrosorin.com. It's not complicated to find us. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and all the typical places that you would find a podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, we would greatly appreciate if you could share that with your friends. Thumb us up, subscribe, and so forth. Just basically engage with us in any shape or form so we know that what we're doing is worth your precious time and attention. Thank you.